Hiya, my name is Matt, and today I'm going to be taking a look at and discussing the 2020 iPhone SE and whether or not it's still good value for money in 2021. But before we begin, I'd just like to say that I'm getting very close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you are interested in tech videos, then please do subscribe. The 2020 iPhone SE can be picked up on eBay or from Amazon Renewed for about £250. I picked up this iPhone for £250 and it's got 98% battery health and it's just in mint condition. And in my opinion, for 250 quid, this is insanely good value for money. Or if you prefer, you could pick up the iPhone SE directly from Apple, which is about £400. £400 is really good value for money, but my personal preference is to buy used iPhones. When I first went into this review, I actually went into it fairly negatively, not expecting to like the iPhone SE. This is because I just thought it was a little bit boring because of the recycled design from the iPhone 8. But I must say, as soon as I set this phone up and started using it, my opinions quickly changed. The A13 processor that's inside of this phone is just so quick, it makes it tough to dislike this phone. So within this video, I'm going to give you a full overview of the iPhone SE and how it holds up in 2021 to try and enable you to make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to go ahead and buy one. So starting with the design, this iPhone is pretty much the exact same design as the iPhone 8. The front of this phone features a 720p 4.7 inch display, which is an underwhelming display and isn't super bright nor very sharp. Visibility on brighter days isn't amazing, and if you're wearing sunglasses it can get even worse. With that being said, the display just gets the job done and does work well. It's the same display found on the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 7, so visually if you've used one of these phones previously you won't really be disappointed with this display. This iPhone also has the same large top and bottom bezels as the older iPhones, and I expected to find this really annoying or outdated, but if I'm being honest, it just didn't bother me and I'm grateful to have Touch ID back. Touch ID on this phone is really awesome and quick. The back of this phone is made of glass, which enables Qi wireless charging, and there's also a single lens camera with a very slight camera bump. So moving on to performance. The performance on this phone is unsurprisingly awesome. This phone is powered by the A13 chip and 3GB of RAM. This is the same processor and 1GB less of RAM than the iPhone 11. So naturally, this insanely fast processor is awesome when combined with a relatively low resolution display. Moving through the home screen is buttery smooth and using Safari is responsive. App loading time is insanely quick, even with larger apps such as games, it just works really well. This phone will fly through any app on the App Store, including games, and one good benefit of this phone is that I've not actually found that it gets really warm either, so whilst playing games this phone doesn't get too hot. And this iPhone's actually a really good choice for a cheap phone to buy if you want to use it for playing games. It comes with that insanely quick processor that's found in the iPhone 11, and it just runs any game like an absolute champ. The performance of this phone is insanely future-proof due to the A13 processor. Like, if you buy this phone today, you will most likely receive 5 or more years worth of software support, and I don't think that any other phone in the £250 price range can actually offer you that value proposition. I think it's a really good selling point of this phone. So moving on to camera. The main camera on this phone is a 12 megapixel shooter. I couldn't find much information as to whether or not this is a different sensor to the iPhone 8. I do think it's the same hardware as the iPhone 8, which may sound bad on paper, but when it comes to it, the iPhone SE photography is significantly improved. A lot of the quality from phone photos comes from computational photography. This is where software is used to enhance the photos taken by cameras. For example, Apple uses a feature called Smart HDR. Whilst this may sound like marketing jargon, it actually does improve the quality of your photos, as the iPhone takes images at different exposures to ensure that the highlights and shadows have detail. So whilst the photos may not be as good as the iPhone 11, they are definitely improved over the iPhone 8 and are more than acceptable for capturing your memories, especially at this price point. The image processing is definitely different to the iPhone 8 and the colours are more vibrant and photos generally look better. This iPhone also offers portrait mode using software. I'm personally not a fan of any portrait mode, and I must say that this portrait mode is a little bit mediocre. As you can see from this photo, bits of my hair are blurred out when they shouldn't be, so portrait mode with software only isn't really a great feature to have. One feature that this phone lacks is night mode, so therefore photos taken in the dark really don't look that great. This phone also can record video at 4K 60, and genuinely at this price point you're not going to find a phone that records better video. The Google Pixel 4a may take subjectively better photos at this price point, but the iPhone SE definitely records better videos. The front-facing camera is mediocre. It's not a huge upgrade from the iPhone 8, but yeah, it's good enough for taking video calls and the occasional selfie. So finishing up with battery, the battery size on this phone is relatively small and is just under 2000 milliamp hours, and whilst on paper this is incredibly underwhelming, it actually isn't too much of a problem. The A13 processor is relatively efficient and the low resolution display isn't very power hungry either, so I found that whilst using the iPhone SE I was able to get between 4 and 5 hours of screen on time if I was just doing light tasks such as iMessage and Safari. But whilst playing games or whatever, you can expect to have your screen on time reduced by a couple hours. So whilst the battery performance isn't amazing, you should be able to get through a full day of usage without needing to charge it. I must say, one decent benefit of the iPhone SE battery being so small is that it charges really quickly. Whilst it doesn't have fast charging as a feature, it does charge relatively fast because it just doesn't have to charge a massive battery when you plug it in. So you can plug it in for half an hour and you'll still get about 50% battery life. An additional bonus of the iPhone SE just being an improved iPhone 8 essentially is that the iPhone 8 charging case will fit the iPhone SE. These charging cases can be picked up on eBay for relatively cheap now, so if you do have a busy day or you just want to be able to play games on your phone all day long, this charging case is fairly cheap to buy and will give you probably another 75% battery charge on top of the normal battery life, and in my opinion it's worthwhile buying, especially if you can get one for like 40 quid. So to conclude, whilst the iPhone SE is the same unoriginal recycled design that Apple used in the iPhone 8, it's still an exceptional phone in 2021. The addition of the A13 processor just makes this phone so fast, and you can buy this phone in confidence knowing that you're going to receive 4 to 5 more years of software support, with the possibility of like even longer. Whilst the display isn't a fancy OLED, it still gets the job done and is plenty good enough for just watching videos and playing games on it. It's not the best display that you'll find in a phone, but it's not too bad either. Like, it still looks good, and for the money it's tough to complain. The small battery may be an issue for you, but as I mentioned, you can extend the battery life by using the smart charging case that you can pick up used on eBay. But overall, I must say the iPhone SE 2020 offers really great value in 2021, and I would just recommend picking one up. If you're coming from an older iPhone SE or an iPhone 6S, this is still a really awesome phone to buy. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was informative. If you enjoyed, please do press that like button and subscribe. All the best. Cheers and gone.